This is Real Talk, the Customer Insights Show with Jen Vogel, a top-rated live stream and podcast in the market research and insights industry. We're live on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Join Jen and her guests for this live discussion around topics that will help you understand your customers better. Also available on podcast channels. This live stream is presented to you by Voxpopme, the leader in video research and ranked #1 in qualitative research by Grit 2 years running. Here's today's live conversation.
Hello, insights professionals, marketers, and everyone who wants to understand their customers better. I'm Jen Vogel, and I have some great news. Thank you to our knowledgeable guests and awesome viewers and listeners. Real Talk is a finalist for the Market Research Podcast of the Year. The winner is determined by vote, and I hope we'll get yours. So please right-click on the link in the notes and remember to cast your votes. Thank you so much for the nomination. Let's get going with today's episode, a very special episode. I actually have even more great news to share. So this week, the Grit Report, highly anticipated annual report, was released. And Voxpopme was ranked the #1 qualitative solution for the second year in a row. So we are very excited about that. Obviously, we already updated our intro. So thank you to all of our customers and partners for giving us that honor 2 years in a row as well. So in order to celebrate, special episode today, I'm joined by Voxpopme co-founders, our CEO, Dave Carruthers, and CTO, Andy Barraclough. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us on.
It's been quite the week.
It has been quite the week. A lot of excitement happening. We are in a new half of the year and feeling some good momentum.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So I guess just to kick off, what does the #1 in qualitative ranking mean for us, mean for Voxpopme? What does it mean to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think, great to see. Once is a fluke and 2 times is a trend. So it's always good to see. So getting it for that second year, it means a lot. We've worked hard as a team. We really listen to our clients and spend time with insights leaders across CPG and technology companies, really trying to understand what are the pains and what are the challenges that they're going through. And I think that's paying off. Qual's having somewhat of a resurgence at the moment. And we're fueling that. I think we're changing the way that brands are thinking about qualitative. I often hear from insights professionals, their frustrations around insights and recommendations not being paid attention to. They're concerned. Shrinking budgets. Is a big thing that came up, and time. How do I do more with less? And these are some of the key pains that we've been absolutely focused on addressing. And I think if you look back over a COVID year where it's been tough to be in person and see people, qualitative has been more important than ever. We've been through this extreme period of transition, and thankfully, we seem to be at least coming out the other side of that, and certainly things getting a bit more back to normal. But there's a lot of change happened, and understanding people and understanding how people's mindsets and behaviors have changed has been hugely important to us. So yeah, it's a great award and accolade to have, and it represents really what the team across the board, across every department within the company has been focused on. So we're proud, I guess, is the best word.
Yeah, I just DC's kind of covered off most of it there, but definitely, super proud of this and going through what has been a tough year. I think it's given us a huge opportunity to, really consider how closely we do want to work with our customers and how we really want to listen to them in the same way we encourage them to listen to their consumers and really bringing those values of what we have within the company and the way we instill that with our customers and with our, with all of our team members as well. Just super proud of what everyone's done and the focus that we've had and really pleased for getting that #1 spot. But I think it's the exciting part is we know what else we've got coming and what we're excited about and all the other things that we're working on. And so having that having that number one, but knowing what else we can do and what, where we want to focus. That's the bit that's really kind of driving forward as well, and kind of everyone's excited about here at Voxpopme.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's spend a few minutes. Let's dig into some of the findings from this year's report. I want to start by talking about a little bit how the industry has shifted in the last year. I know, Dave, you mentioned coming out of a COVID year and everything that's changing. And obviously, like, the pandemic brought about a lot of forced change. And we're seeing in the GRIT report that there's some indication of recovery of budgets and, kind of going back to the old ways of doing things. But what are you seeing in the industry right now and hearing from customers about, what's changed and what's kind of changing again now that we kind of start to recover?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's transformation is the number one word. I think we already saw this beginning to happen in the insights industry, slower, I guess, than many would have liked. And that COVID year forced everyone to speed up their digital transformation efforts. And I think for many, it's been enlightening. It's been an opportunity to try new ways of doing things because the old ways weren't possible. And now they've seen the light and the future and the efficiencies and the agility of what's out there. They simply aren't going to go back to the old way. Yeah, certain things nothing's going to disappear overnight or anything like that. But I think not only has technology and tools changed, I think mindsets have changed. Mindsets have shifted. There was a huge explosion of, insights has really successfully used this, terrible situation to reclaim its seat at the table, in my opinion. So many of the insights leaders I'm talking to, they were getting bombarded with questions from all over the organization. What about this? What about this? What about this? And they had, the ones that have been successful had already built the tool stack, had already built the technology stack to support that change. So I think it's a mindset shift as to how they approach things. And I think historically there's always been this mindset that you can have fast and cheap, but qualities typically suffers or it's subjective. And really, I think what we're seeing now is you can genuinely have all three. So I think that is a big change I'm seeing. Background noise on the pod today.
Yeah, we've got a lot of extra visitors. Yeah, and I think we've had that conversation before about Agile is not just about what technology you're using. Like, that mindset piece is so important. And like you're saying, over the last year, that's been a big shift, is people are actually kind of getting on board with that mindset shift because they were almost forced to in some ways. But there was certainly a trend that was accelerated by what was happening in the world.
100%. I was talking to an insights leader at Microsoft, and we were talking a lot about stacking learnings. And, historically, it's been like, hey, let's get these people, let's corner them in a room, and let's pound them for information for 2 hours and get every little last ounce of insight we can out of them. And people are realizing that isn't the way to get great insights. The other thing I'm seeing is, again, stacking those learnings. What do we already know? There was such a mindset historically of, hey, let's just run another project. Let's just throw out another survey. And companies are starting to think, a lot more about what data do we have? Where are the gaps? How do we build upon this? How do we not lose, the insights work? Clearly there's some types of work that need to be refreshed regularly. Things change and things like that. But other things that are more fundamental, again, there's already a lot of learnings that have been captured across the business. And, and I think that challenge, as we see research more democratized, and more people wanting to talk to customers. Everyone wants to talk to the customer right now, whether you're in product, innovation, marketing, direct insights function. Everyone is clamoring to get more information from the customer. Even a company, at Voxpopme's side, our engineers want to talk to customers. Our product team wants to talk to customers. You want to talk to customers. I'm meeting with leadership. Insights is everybody's job. Everybody needs to understand the customer better. So again, think about that, the challenge that creates. It's more data. It's more customer insights living in different places. So again, there's a lot of work that needs to be done there to continue to democratizing insights in a way that kind of, again, stacks these learnings and makes us kind of smarter collectively as an organization.
Yeah, I think kind of leading on from, what Dave said there around that digital transformation that's going on and within the insights industry and things, and it's been forced to happen. But what we also see from as a technology company and as the rest of the technology providers that we have in these areas, it forces that innovation as well, because there's everything else is faster moving. So it gives us all the opportunity to be a lot quicker in how we need to innovate and how we need to keep up with the changes that we're seeing and kind of keep ahead of that for our customers and everything else as well. So and I think what we've seen is a lot of companies and individuals getting used to using lots of different products and product stacks and getting to the information that they need to in ways that they haven't before, but because they've been forced into doing so. And so, that really adds to kind of what creativity can happen around, all of the technology supporting this as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's interesting what you say about, the democratization of research, which obviously can sometimes be a dirty word. So I think the danger of it is when the data is siloed, but what you're talking about, like stacking that data. And I know I've talked to customers who, really put a lot of importance on data transparency across the different parts of the business. Because you're right, everybody does want to talk to the customer. Everybody wants to do it in different ways at different stages, but sharing those learnings across the business is where we can really win, by making sure that everybody is hearing and learning the same things, and asking the right questions at the right times.
Yeah, 100%. We've got to think about how we deliver those insights as well. We use the term of Voxpopme all the time: snackable content. How do we share things with stakeholders, key executives that connects them to the customer in a fast and efficient way? And even at Voxpopme, we're continually innovating on that. We just launched an internal podcast to do exactly that, right? An internal podcast where a couple of our product marketing team are sharing insights on a monthly basis in terms of what have they heard from their customer interviews. And it's a short 30-minute podcast, but it brings to life everything that all of the organization is learning about the customer. So I think the evolution of that storytelling and how you deliver the insights is also a fascinating trend for me.
Yeah, for sure. We love a good podcast here at Voxpopme.
Exactly. Maybe we win an award for an internal podcast.
Ooh, I wonder who will vote.
I think, and JV, we've spoke about that before, about making sure that information gets delivered across an organization, right? Because that's so important to make, the more that can be done, the approach to, trying to make a decision, solve a problem, come up with a solution, come up with new ideas, all of that, as you said, Dave, once that becomes aligned and everyone's hearing the same things as well, it makes such a big difference.
100%.
Yeah, it really does. When you're getting everybody on the same page and collaborating and, hearing all the same things, thinking in the same mindset, the same customer mindset, it just makes for everything that we create is better. Our product, our marketing, our messaging, everything. So I think one of the big questions that we were all asking ourselves a year ago this time is everything's changed. And this is what our clients were wondering about consumers, what we're wondering about our clients. Everything's changed. What's going to stick around? Eventually we won't be fully locked down in a pandemic anymore. And what of those trends that we started to see emerge, what was going to remain? So do we feel we can answer that now? What are some of those trends that we're seeing that are sort of sticking around?
Yeah, I think obviously, a big one on the empathy side, is absolutely huge. And looking at the automation section of the report, that shows an increase in those areas, playing a key role in insights functions. So analysis of video data, for instance, up 9%, text analytics, non-conscious measurement also up by 8 to 9%. So, I think that's, this idea of getting close to the customer and having that empathy, I think that's, something that will be continuously, built on and understood more and trying to get to that in the right way to understand your customers and make the best decisions possible is something that, definitely will be sticking.
Yeah, I totally agree. I remember around this time last year, everyone was talking about like, oh, it's so important to have empathy. And there was these sort of side comments like, why have we not had empathy before? Like, why are we just starting to talk about this now? And it's true. I think nobody really realized how non-empathetic some of us were being, or, you know, thinking about data and thinking about numbers and trends. And, you know, that has certainly shifted to understanding people in the last year. And I don't think that's going away.
Yeah, that humanization trend, I think, is here to stay. And I think the best companies are combining big data and analytics alongside that humanization and that empathy piece. And when it's an incredible 1-2 combo when you can hit that both of those together, and it plays really well.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the other things that came out in the report, which is not that surprising or interesting, like the #1 buzzword, which is probably like 3 years in a row on the Grit report, is AI and machine learning. So like, what?
I'm already rolling my eyes. Honestly. I mean,
why is that?
Because it just, particularly in our industry, it gets bandied about a bunch of times when people don't mean AI or machine learning. And there's such a misunderstanding of the technology, almost akin to snake oil salespeople. Like, there are very few companies in this industry that do really powerful stuff with AI. I mean, probably huge respect for Remesh, Andrew Konya, probably the leading expert on AI in the market research field. You know, when he talks, I listen. When I see some of these other presentations, honestly, it's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed. You know, it's just kind of throwing words around. And yeah, machine learning, AI can be extremely powerful if implemented in the right way, and it's getting there, and it's through this adoption curve, and we seem to go through this kind of peak of expectation, and then we're going to drop into this trough of disillusionment when everyone realizes what they got sold doesn't actually do what they thought it was going to do. And then actually where it ends up in 10 years' time is far greater than we ever imagined now. But I still feel we're at this kind of, you know, I think some people are realizing it's not worth, not as, you know, the hype is ahead of the technology right now. And, you know, don't get me wrong, like, I'm excited by AI and machine learning and what's possible with it. I just think we have to be realistic and not just kind of drop it in. It's like, oh yeah, we did this with AI. No, you didn't. It's just a database query. Like, that's not AI.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think that what we see with a lot of the, you know, the buzzword side of things is that it's that when there's not that real true understanding, and not often when it kind of comes to fruition and really works, it kind of almost, you know, is less of a buzzword, and it, you know, just it starts to then just become part and parcel of what's being done. And it is something that's, you know, it's ever changing, and, you know, understanding how we can start to bring together all of these different data sets and layer them across each other to get to those insights. There's lots more we can do now than we could 2 years ago, 5 years ago. But it's you know, as Dave said, it's still kind of in its infancy a little bit, and still needs to be understood more. And I think it's sometimes that idea of like wanting something but not knowing why you want it. It's almost like I want a bit of magic because that'll be solve all my problems, and kind of not really, you know, being able to connect those two dots and being at, you know, two different completely ends of the scale of like hearing about it and actually connecting that to why is that going to be useful? How is that going to help your customer? How is that going to help you get to where you need to get to and get that understanding that you need? You start to connect those two things a little bit more, and that's where the technology then becomes more useful. But when it's not integrated in that way, it's not so much use.
Well, I think a lot of people had OKRs set for them. It was like experiment with AI, which is a super vague thing, right? So it was kind of just like, oh, we need to get the beak wet with AI. We need to just try and do something. And I know you love that phrase, but yeah, it's just, you know, as it matures, I think it will be great. But yeah, I think you know, there's very few genuinely great applications of it so far in our industry.
Yeah. So I guess, like, what do you think what role has technology played? What's possible now that wasn't before with technology that isn't necessarily AI based, but the actual technology that is being applied today to, make research more agile or more powerful?
I mean, I think it's the access to a lot of the like abilities to start bringing things together. And what we're seeing, in technology as a whole is being able to innovate quicker, innovate more cheaply, and scale very fast. And be it, so what you're seeing is, in the past where it was very difficult for a technology to get up and running because just your running costs alone were just insane, and your ability to chop and change was very difficult. And so, as that change happened for technology companies and prior to kind of Voxpopme and in early stages of stuff we were doing when we used to work with certain companies and try and build things out, it was very difficult to do. And now we can kind of drop things in very quickly, strip it out, scale it as fast as we need to, and trial other things that are out there in order to kind of give us some more data and insights into what we're able to build and what we're able to do. And then going out and testing those with customers, seeing where they're useful, seeing if those proof of concepts are working. Are they solving a pain point that's actually there? Rather than something just being, a shiny new feature for the sake of it, that attracts, some attention, but doesn't actually drive true value for the customer, which is, where we really want to get to. And I think the ability for all of that coming together means that from an agile perspective, it means there's all of that technology out there can support, from an insights perspective, everything that people want to do, and get to those, get to make a decision quicker and iterate a lot more on those decisions that are being made, and not necessarily going into it as like a huge research piece for every time. It's like, all right, I can get this answer, and then that answer can help give me information and answer a question to get to the next one. And so I think that's where all of this allows us to get to on the agile side.
For sure. And one of the things I thought was really interesting in the report, there's a whole section about unmet needs. Like, what do the buyers feel, or the client side researchers feel are unmet needs in the industry? And the top two were faster time to insight and more innovative approaches, or, ways to challenge traditional methodologies. And those things surprise me, actually, because there's so much great technology out there that is challenging traditional methodologies, that is getting faster insights, that is more agile. So I'm curious what that, where that comes from, with all of it feels like there's so much great technology out there in the industry, in the space, that is giving just that. So for it to be described as an unmet need was interesting to me.
I think that's interesting, probably from a perspective of, like, it's a lot. I think you see a lot of it out there, but sometimes it takes some time for adoption, and especially, and I think it's, if people are used to doing things in certain ways, it's kind of like the idea of innovation and quick ways to get to those things is a nice idea, but taking that leap is sometimes difficult and sometimes a challenge. And that unknown of, like, is this going to, add to what I've been doing, or, have I got the time to do this? And some of those things that, like, people are fearful of making that change because of. And so it's probably I think that's, again, with the emergence of those, people are aware of them, but not necessarily made the leap towards them to understand everything that's out there. Actually, you said there are so many great solutions for that.
You're on mute, Dave.
I am on mute. Apologize. Live mute. There's a lot of background noise going on here. I would say accessibility is the thing technology is opening up through evolution. You think about where we're able to get now and what we're able to get consumers to share with us, and kind of where they'll take us and into their lives and show us these things as well, I think is huge. And, as Andy says, combining those data sets and having access to people based on intent behavior, usage behavior, geo-targeting, and things like that, is opening up a whole world of possibilities as to how can we meet consumers where we are, how can we get that feedback more in the moment. We all know that kind of, stated behavior and recall are challenges as part of research and things like that. So the closer to the moment of truth that we can get the better the quality of the data as well. So I think that's where I see that evolution in technology, is just that ability to, to meet consumers where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a good segue, I think. I want to talk about the rankings, the big rankings of the year. So the top 25 client-side corporate researchers, P&G is number one. There's the top 10 out of the 25. Now, for me, it's so great to see like so many of our customers on this list. We work with 80-90% of these companies. So my question for you is what do you think makes these insights functions so innovative?
For me, it starts at the top. All of those companies have incredible leadership that's driving the direction of their insights, and kind of setting the stall out. So you kind of you look at the work that someone like PepsiCo has been doing recently with all of the platform work they've been doing, the work that kind of Unilever continues to do, and spend a lot of time talking with Microsoft and what they're doing. And it's just, you can see their leaders get it. Their leaders are always a couple of steps ahead of maybe some of the companies that aren't on this list. They're just thinking about things in different ways, and they're just they have the agile mindset. Candidly, they're not kind of rooted in just this is how we've always done it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that they're that it's got to come from leadership. Well, I mean, even leadership from the top down and leadership from the bottom up. Right? Like everybody's kind of on board with the transformation, that mindset that you talked about of being more agile and challenging the status quo.
And we see that all the time at Voxpopme, right? Some of our clients who, we work most closely with, it's because there's a leader who's grasped what Voxpopme can bring and understands the pain and challenges we solve for her team. And enables us to do that. And the best companies also, I would add, work in partnership with their vendors, partners. I prefer the term partners for sure. Like they're sharing the challenges they're working on. They have an open dialogue. They bring collaboration to the table. They get vendor A and vendor B to partner together. And a lot of the companies I'm seeing now, are doing like vendor briefing days, again, like they don't want to have the same conversation 30 times. Hey, tell me what's going on in your organization. What are your top 3 challenges? It's a waste of their time, but for you to be a great partner to them, you need to know that stuff. So some of the things that kind of vendors that they're doing there, I think is huge. But then likewise, as you say, leadership from the top, leadership from the bottom. Some of our largest clients now, they would, Voxpopme was discovered by more junior members of the insights team who had that kind of more inquisitive, curious, innovator mindset, and was always looking for tools and ways to kind of challenge the status quo. So you're right, it can be top down and bottom up, but it's that mindset, that curiosity and the constant innovation and continuous improvement. If you have that mindset, you'll win.
And I think with that, from the leadership side, I think that's that leadership of, as you said, it might not be the leaders bringing these tools and these solutions to the table, but they're setting that mindset within their companies to allow people to do that. They're creating an environment and a culture that lets people be able to openly bring new ideas and things like that. So as you said, it's not necessarily just leaders pushing things down from I found this solution, or we're going to work on this solely. It's allowing that openness throughout their teams.
Yeah, for sure. The openness for it, and that freedom to try something and it maybe not work, is really important. And I know we got to wrap this up. We could talk about this all day, but I think we got to go do other things. The top 50 supplier list. So we've got Ipsos and Kantar number 1 and 2, and obviously there's the sub list, which we're I want to spend more time talking about being number 1 in qual, in case you guys didn't know that out there listening. But, what I guess, there's a lot of movement on the supplier list every year, really. But what are you guys taking out from from that list?
Yeah, there's some interesting kind of things on this list. I think we are continually seeing a transformation of insights culture where companies like Voxpopme, Zappy, Suzy, etc., are taking work away from the Ipsos, Kantars of the world. So it surprises me, if I'm honest, to see those two companies at the top of that list, of an innovation list. I get the scale, I get what they bring, but I don't see that. I don't have any conversation with an insights leader that's like, oh my God, you won't believe this innovative thing that, big agency B or A has brought me. So I'm surprised a little bit by that if we're talking true innovation and actual change. And then, I think we're seeing that resurgence in Qual, great moves up from Remesh and things like that. And then in the video space specifically, I mean, it's been interesting to see. Obviously, Living Lens got acquired by Medallia, but they seem to have taken their focus off market research, dropping in the rankings, and even when combined with a big public company like Medallia. So, a lot of change, but some interesting stuff for sure.
Yeah, really interesting. Well, I'm very excited that we were ranked #1 in Qual again. And so another congratulations to the two of you, to the rest of the company for all their hard work, for all of our customers for being innovators in the space and, really challenging the way business is done in our industry. And we're not going to let you forget about it. We'll keep talking about it. So this isn't the end of that conversation, but I really appreciate both of you guys coming on the show today.
Awesome.
Thanks
very much.
Pleasure being on.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Congrats to the entire team at Voxpopme on the recognition on the Grit Report. Please follow us on your favorite podcast channel, rate and review. On the next episode, I'll be joined by Michelle Gainsley of McDonald's. See you then.